He's the last great movie star in Hollywood. He's headlined classics, worked with the best directors, and dominated the box office for decades. But his rise came at a cost: failed marriages, controversial beliefs, and personal sacrifices. Today, we're diving deep into the life of Tom Cruise, not just as the star who saved cinema, but as a complex, multifaceted man full of contradictions. And honestly, calling his life a roller coaster doesn't even scratch the surface. Born on July 3, 1962 in New York, Thomas Cruise Mapother IV grew up in a tough environment. He and his three sisters endured poverty and the physical abuse of their own father. When Tom was 12, his dad walked out on the family, leaving them with nothing. His mother took on multiple jobs to support the kids, and Tom did whatever he could to help: landscaping, delivering newspapers, even selling ice cream. On top of that, he struggled with dyslexia, and because the family was constantly moving, he attended 14 different schools in just 15 years. Life was tough, but Tom found a few ways to escape. First, through sports. He played baseball and later got into wrestling. For a while, he dreamed of going pro, but a knee injury crushed that dream. Still, that competitive fire never left him. As a teenager, he also found comfort in Catholicism. His faith gave him a sense of peace amid the chaos at home. He was even accepted into a seminary to become a Franciscan monk, but eventually realized he couldn't fully commit and walked away. Still, he stayed connected to Christianity, though, as we'll see later, his beliefs would take a much more controversial turn. Nothing else seemed to stick until Tom found one passion that eclipsed the rest: movies. As a kid, he'd sneak into theaters and lose himself in everything from Hollywood classics to the groundbreaking films and actors of the 60s and 70s. He idolized countless stars, but none more than Steve McQueen, a legend who commanded the screen in both drama and action, often performing his own stunts. Tom dreamed of being like McQueen, but could he really become an actor? He decided to test himself in a school play. The moment he stepped on stage, he felt something he'd never experienced before: pure energy and a sense of freedom. And he could tell the audience felt it too. That's when it hit him. Maybe he could make a living playing characters. But in 1979, everything changed. At his graduation party, he met Diane Cox, another student. He waited for her outside the bathroom, drink in hand, flashing a big smile. Right there, they kissed, and it sparked a passionate relationship. Tom fell hard. He'd tell Diane over and over that she was the love of his life. Suddenly, nothing else mattered, not even acting. But after 2 years, it all fell apart. The fights got worse, and everything came crashing down when Tom found out Diane was seeing someone else. It hit him hard, especially for someone whose life had never been easy. And as we'll see, it wouldn't be the last time. Heartbroken, Tom threw himself into acting. But now, it wasn't just about being an actor. He was going to be a star. He'd work with the greatest directors, and everyone would love him, especially the women. Nothing, and no one, was going to stop him from reaching the top. After high school, Tom enrolled in an acting class. To make ends meet, he worked as a waiter and unloaded trucks. He struggled to find a place to live and could barely afford anything beyond rice and hot dogs. But once he saved up enough, he packed his bags and headed to Los Angeles. No experience, no connections, and not exactly the Hollywood ideal, but he fought for every audition. His film debut came in Endless Love, directed by Franco Zeffirelli. It was a blink-and-you'll-miss-it role, just a few seconds on screen. His first real break came that same year with Taps, a story about a military academy seized by its own cadets. The young leads were Timothy Hutton, fresh off an Oscar win, newcomer Sean Penn, and a third actor no one remembers now. Tom was cast as an extra, but like the leads, he went through military training before filming started. On day one, the instructor ordered everyone to drop and do push-ups. Hutton, Penn, and the other guy gave up fast, but Cruise kept going, drawing on that athletic drive. He pushed until the instructor and director Harold Becker took notice. By the end of training, Cruise had worked his way into a speaking role: David Shawn, a violent, hot-headed cadet. Taps put Cruise on the map. He was a young actor to watch, ready for bigger roles, even if he had to fight for every single one. 1983 was a turning point for Cruise. He landed a role in The Outsiders, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Another solid step came with the sports drama All the Right Moves. But nothing from that era would prove more important than Risky Business. The film follows Joel, a high school kid who, thanks to one unexpected night, gets caught up with a mysterious woman and turns his house into the setting for an unforgettable party. Cruise was determined to land the role. It was his shot at proving his comedic range, but director Paul Brickman thought he was too rough around the edges and too short for the part. Refusing to back down, Cruise waited outside Brickman's office and performed a scene right there on the spot. That won him the role, and he delivered, especially in the film's most iconic moment. Joel, wearing nothing but a button-down shirt, underwear, and black sunglasses, lip syncs and dances to Bob Seger's old-time rock and roll. The scene was in the script, but the moves? That was all Cruise. He improvised with a coat rack as his mic stand, creating a moment that became legendary, copied, parodied, and forever etched into pop culture. Risky Business made Cruise a recognizable name, but not quite a star. He thought Legend, 1985, would get him there. A fantasy epic directed by Ridley Scott, a filmmaker Cruise admired for Alien and Blade Runner. But production was messy, and the film flopped at the box office. While shooting Legend, Cruise crossed paths with Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, the powerhouse producing duo of the 80s. They were working on a film about an elite U.S. Navy aviation program, Top Gun. Cruise had always been fascinated by aviation, but he wasn't sold on the project. Ridley Scott mentioned his brother Tony Scott was directing. Cruise hit it off with Tony, but still wasn't convinced. That's when Simpson and Bruckheimer made a bold move. They arranged for Cruise to fly with the Blue Angels, the Navy's elite flight demonstration squadron. They put him in an F-14 fighter jet, and the pilots pulled off a series of wild aerial maneuvers. That adrenaline rush sealed the deal. Cruise was all in. In Top Gun, Cruise plays Pete Mitchell, callsign Maverick, an arrogant fighter pilot battling personal demons while winning over his instructor. Bringing the character to life came naturally. Cruise connected with Maverick's father issues and understood what it meant to fight your way past them. Top Gun was a massive hit and finally launched Cruise into the stardom he'd been chasing. He became a sex symbol and earned respect as a serious actor. But behind the scenes, his private life told a very different story. After Top Gun, Cruise kept stacking up hits, starring alongside some of the biggest names in Hollywood. But one of his most challenging roles came in Born on the 4th of July, directed by Oliver Stone. He played Ron Kovich, a Vietnam War veteran paralyzed from the waist down. Cruise learned to use a wheelchair and fully shed his heartthrob image, a performance that earned him his first Oscar nomination. Even as his film career soared, Cruise never lost sight of his personal life. His high school sweetheart, Diane Cox, was long gone, and now he was dating actresses. He had brief relationships with Melissa Gilbert and Heather Locklear, but his first serious partner was Risky Business co-star Rebecca De Mornay. They lasted 2.5 years, until Cruise ended things, unable to handle her friendship with her ex, actor Harry Dean Stanton. He was later linked to Cher, but few women would have the impact Mimi Rogers did. She was 6 years older, but the chemistry was undeniable. They married quietly in 1987, determined to avoid the press. By then, Cruise wasn't just conquering Hollywood. He was actively avoiding its excesses. He often skipped the party scene, choosing instead to stay home reading the Bible. He identified as a born-again Christian and credited his faith for keeping him grounded. That all changed when Rogers introduced him to something else, the Church of Scientology. We've covered it in another video, but here's the short version. Founded by science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology teaches that humans are immortal spiritual beings, or thetans, who've forgotten their true nature. Followers undergo a process to confront past traumas and achieve purity. In the US, it's legally recognized as a religion, but in places like France and Belgium, it's still considered a cult. None of that stopped Scientology from becoming a major force in Hollywood, with plenty of high-profile members. Cruise was hooked. He walked away from Christianity and fully embraced Scientology. In one of his rare public statements about it, he called it a beautiful religion that changed his life, claiming it even cured his dyslexia. But as Cruise's devotion to Scientology deepened, his marriage to Rogers fell apart. They divorced in 1990. Drained by it all, Rogers left the church, too. Cruise stayed, and just like in the movies, he kept rising. From that point on, his life became a constant tug-of-war between movies, women, faith, and scandal. The 90s were even more intense for Cruise. He kept delivering hits across a range of roles, and began developing his own projects. In Days of Thunder, Cruise even wrote the first draft himself, crafting the story of Cole Trickle, a NASCAR driver. He reunited the Top Gun team, Tony Scott, Simpson, and Bruckheimer. But Days of Thunder wasn't enough. Cruise and his agent, Paula Wagner, launched their own production company, Cruise/Wagner Productions. Their first project? A film adaptation of Mission Impossible, which we've covered in another video. Playing Ethan Hunt, Cruise took things further, insisting on doing all his own stunts. The gamble paid off. Mission Impossible was a major success and launched a franchise. More importantly, it cemented Cruise as both a fearless action star and a savvy producer, earning him a major deal with Paramount. But he didn't shy away from smaller character-driven projects either. In Jerry Maguire, which he also produced, Cruise earned his second Oscar nomination. Then came Magnolia, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. Cruise slashed his usual $20 million fee to just $100,000 to play Frank T.J. Mackey, a motivational speaker with deep-seated issues, especially with his dying father. It hit close to home. Cruise never forgot his own father, a man he only saw once before his death. Channeling that pain, Cruise delivered one of the rawest performances of his career and earned his third Oscar nomination. Off-screen, the 90s were just as dramatic. While filming Days of Thunder, Cruise personally chose his co-star, Nicole Kidman. Their chemistry was undeniable, and 6 months after the film's release, they were married. For years, they were Hollywood's golden couple. When they adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor, they seemed to have it all, the perfect family Cruise never had growing up. Cruise and Kidman worked together again in Far and Away and Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's final film. The movie fueled endless rumors, including one that it triggered their divorce in 2001. But the real reason, Scientology. By then, Cruise had climbed high within the church and felt Kidman wasn't keeping up. He filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Determined not to repeat his father's mistakes, Cruise fought for custody of Connor and Isabella, both of whom eventually joined the church. Kidman was blindsided. Today, Scientology labels her a suppressive person, but that didn't stop her from rebuilding her life and her career. After the divorce, the media and public looked at Cruise differently. People mocked his height, especially when paired with taller women. Rumors swirled about his sex life, his sexuality, even claims that Scientology had him under control. Cruise sued anyone who spread those stories, and either won or settled every time, but the scandals never stopped following him. As the 2000s began, Cruise kept landing major hits, even working with directors like Steven Spielberg, but his personal life started to overshadow his success. After a relationship with Penelope Cruz, he met Katie Holmes, an up-and-coming actress, 16 years younger. The romance took off fast. For some, it was the love story of the century. For others, a PR stunt. Until then, Cruise only gave interviews to promote his films. Always enthusiastic, but carefully reserved. That changed with Holmes. During the War of the Worlds press tour, Cruise switched strategies. On May 23, 2005, he appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show. From the start, he was restless, almost manic, especially when Oprah asked about his personal life. It was obvious. Cruise wasn't there to promote the movie. He was there to promote the relationship. Oprah played along, urging him to call Holmes, who was waiting backstage. She wasn't supposed to appear on camera, but Cruise pulled her on stage for the world to see. That moment became infamous. Some thought it humanized him. Others saw it as the beginning of his downfall. He became Hollywood's punchline, and Paramount tore up his contract. Meanwhile, clips of his outburst exploded online. Despite the backlash, Cruise married Holmes in 2006. They had a daughter, Suri, and even sparked wild rumors that Cruise ate the placenta. But once again, the fairy tale unraveled. In 2012, they finalized a divorce agreement. Holmes was barred from speaking publicly about their marriage or Scientology for 5 years. Like Kidman, Holmes was branded toxic by the church. But unlike Kidman, she struggled to rebuild her career. Cruise fought for custody of Suri, just as he had with Isabella and Connor. But this time, custody went to Holmes. And just like his own father, Cruise eventually lost contact with his daughter. His problems didn't stop there. Actress and former Scientologist Leah Remini accused Cruise of abusing his power within the church. Another ex-member, Claire Headley, took it further, accusing him of crimes against humanity. Cruise stayed silent, but by then, it was clear. He was deeply embedded in Scientology's inner circle. At the same time, his ageless appearance sparked new debates. Cruise claimed it was all healthy eating and exercise, but it wasn't enough. He turned to Botox and even bought a cryotherapy chamber to slow the aging process. Friends warned him he was overdoing it. He didn't listen. And just when things couldn't get more complicated, someone from his past resurfaced. Diane Cox, the first love who broke his heart. In 2016, she gave an interview to the Daily Mail, sharing old photos and calling Cruise mature for his age, but also jealous, controlling, and desperate for approval. She admitted cheating on him because of it. Cruise never responded, but the damage was done. In the past, he could bury scandals with box office hits, but his luck was running out. His films stopped breaking records, critics were brutal, and the era of the movie star was fading, replaced by superhero blockbusters. Cruise still had Mission Impossible, but other franchises struggled. Jack Reacher barely made it to a sequel. Then came Universal's ambitious Dark Universe, reimagining classic monsters as big-budget adventure films. Cruise starred in the first entry, The Mummy. It bombed so badly it killed the entire franchise. Between personal scandals and professional failures, the media and fans were convinced Cruise was in freefall, and he knew it. If he wanted to survive, something had to change. The real question was, could he survive another scandal? And could he still find his place in a new Hollywood? In the middle of his rough patch, Cruise threw himself into one project he believed could restore his credibility: the sequel to Top Gun. Both Don Simpson and Tony Scott had passed away, but Cruise pushed forward, teaming up with Jerry Bruckheimer and director Joseph Kosinski. In Top Gun Maverick, his character returns, this time as an instructor training a new generation of pilots. The film was set to premiere in June 2020, but when the pandemic shut down theaters, Paramount suggested what every other studio was doing: release it on streaming. Cruise refused. Maverick was made for the big screen, and he insisted they wait until theaters were truly back. And he was right. Top Gun Maverick finally landed in 2022, winning over critics and packing theaters once again. Steven Spielberg himself credited Cruise with saving Hollywood. But despite the comeback, Cruise's personal life remained much the same. Today, he's the most visible face of Scientology, revered inside the church as much as by his fans. And when it comes to his love life, on Valentine's Day 2025, Cruise was spotted having dinner in London with actress Ana de Armas. The romance was never confirmed, but it hinted the star might be ready for something new. Tom Cruise came from nothing and became a giant of entertainment, but his personal life was always turbulent, always headline material, and he paid the price. And yet, he remains the last true movie star. Few figures in Hollywood still inspire as much fascination or controversy. If there's one movie in Hollywood history with a truly controversial ending, it's Seven. Its cast is legendary, and director David Fincher practically owes his career to this film. Today, Seven is remembered for delivering one of the most shocking plot twists of all time.